That alone, verse 76. As countless grains of sand, ceaselessly blown onto the surface of a pond, generate ripple after ripple, by untruths successively blown, the inner self is transformed from within into various forms. Commentary. The word for truth in Sanskrit is satyam. It consists of three sounds, sa, ta, and ya. Sa stands for truth, and ya also stands for truth, while ta means untruth. Thus, in the very heart of truth, untruth resides. It is not effective because it is surrounded by truth. Untruth sits in between, like a thief caught between two policemen. He has to be good. But from another perspective, in the very concept of truth is a fear that untruth may appear at any moment. Our life is like a great marketplace where everyone is jostling and elbowing each other, vying to be in the forefront. First, one idea comes and sits prominently in our mind. Then another one comes and pushes it out of its place so it can have precedence. Then a third comes and elbows its way in. There is this continuous pushing going on within us, not of truth but untruth. This kind of malfunctioning is called anrita. When truth becomes functional, it is called ritam. Satyam is truth in principle, and ritam is truth in practice. When a guru and disciple sit together and chant, they say, Satyam vadishyami, ritam vadishyami. I take the pledge to speak the truth in principle and also to practice it. In this verse, we are dealing with untruth in practice. The word anritam, as used here, means a falsifying method. The 2nd century Rishi Nagarjuna put this proposition: when you say fire, does it burn you? No, it doesn't. Then it is not fire. If it were fire, it would burn you. The word fire does not have the effect of real fire. So why do we relate something that doesn't have the quality of fire to fire? When you say sugar, your mouth doesn't taste sweet. So why do we call that white powder a name that doesn't have any quality of sweetness in it? If the word is only an image, why should you go with that? Why not go to the original? If the word fire is not fire because it does not burn, what is it? If the word sugar is not sugar, what is it? The point is, an image is a very poor substitute for the truth of the original. The words you speak, the words you hear, and even the words you think control your life from morning to night. Even when you aren't speaking or listening, words are filling your mind in the form of thoughts, and those thoughts rule your mind. Your whole life has become filled with concepts that are only images. Those images have no qualities of their own, which qualify them to be related to one thing more than any other. So you are living in a world that is false through and through. Spinoza calls this the affects. Descartes, Malebranche, and Spinoza revived the idea of affects, which had been a part of European philosophy since Plotinus in antiquity. Their theory is essentially the same as what Nagarjuna put forward. The various modes of the horizontal forces always affect us to some degree. Spinoza speaks of three main kinds of affects: pain, pleasure, and desire, which in turn create effects such as love and hatred. In our discussion of the previous verse, we were speaking of the ground and the modes, and here the reference is the same. The ground is Brahman, the Absolute, the Self, pure knowledge. It is the ultimate truth. The life we experience is a consciousness that is superimposed in the form of modes onto this basic truth. Within the superimposition, various changes come day after day. Rousseau in Emile uses the analogy of seeds germinating and coming up as shoots. He notes that at first they come up very straight, but then they encounter horizontal winds. To stand up to the wind, the shoots need an inner stamina, and they sometimes have to bend in such a way that the wind blows over them. If they lack this strength, they have to lean over onto a supporting wall or another tree. Either way, the trees which started out so straight become crooked, gnarled, and bent. Narayana Guru presents the idea of anrita, or falsehood here, through the analogy of wind-blown sands rippling the surface of a pond. Vedantins conceive of certain formations called vasanas, which are formed prior to the present life. The formations that are accumulating in this life are called samskaras. The falsehood that creates the samskara is pictured here as wind-blown sand falling on the surface of a pond. In certain coastal areas of India, there are sands as white as a desert of sugar. Here and there within them are neglected ponds. Wind is always blowing in from the sea, and each time it blows, some sand rises up and flies into the ponds. The wind is gusty, so it swishes in different directions. The ripples swirl and clash. The surface of the pond cannot reflect the sky, since its clarity is so disturbed by all this activity. Meditating on just such a scene surely suggested this analogy to the Guru. You have to consider this analogy as representing the events in your daily life. You are at the mercy of the world in which you are placed. Extraneous things over which you have no control are creeping into your mind from all sides. You are not any special being. You can't be in a state within a state. You are just part of the whole. Your world is full of horizontal winds that affect your equanimity. The actions of people and what they say about you, natural events and disasters, good and bad news, radios, television, and all manner of public media. There is more than enough to disturb you wherever you are. This is all the sand blown in to bring chaos to the serene surface of your personal pond. If it were only a surface phenomenon, you could say it was essentially harmless. But there is more to it than that. Whatever has caused the disturbance settles in to clog up the water. After blowing horizontally, the sand falls vertically down into the very depths of your life. First it affects your surface consciousness, then the water where your thoughts, ideas, and emotions are, and then it sinks to the very bottom. The bottom is what has already been formed in you as your samskaras, or the reactions through which you have built up your personality traits, innate dispositions, and consolidated memory. Though it is invisible, this terrain of the very bottom, affected from moment to moment by the detritus that sifts down from our conscious experience. You can never remain precisely the same. You are not totally changed, but something is happening. Each day you are subtly different. You are still carrying all the previous sediments of your life, but something has been added, and the contour of the terrain has changed. It changes day by day. If you take only this life and look at what has happened from your birth to the present, there are a number of memories you are not very happy with. Certain inner formations you are not very willing to own. Some people even feel guilty and ashamed about this. They are afraid. They cannot hide their inner terrain from the public, and that society might reject them if others saw the kinds of formations they have. There comes a fear of rejection, which can lead to pathological cases. This is a very sad state at the end of the process the Guru is describing. Is it possible for us to avoid it? Philosophers like Spinoza say, we are not in a privileged class. We are like everything else in the natura naturata, the nature that is being natured, in that we belong and are subjected to a greater law. Our minds are not under our control. We cannot stop the formation of samskaras. On the whole, Vedantins do not take such a pessimistic view. They are much more optimistic about how much we can accomplish. The Buddhists have taken the position that falsehood is only of this moment. By disowning what is momentary, and by further disowning the falsehood of what is impressed on them, they get over whatever evil it brings. When you speak of Buddhism, the important thing to remember is that you do not exist. There is no I at all. Only this thing which is happening this moment. They accept being and non-being. At the same time, the being is not being, and the not being is being. One is to be cancelled out with the other. This brings them to what they call shunyata, emptiness. It requires a continuous process of rejection. Through this continuous refutation, Buddhists get over the problem of affectivity. Vedantins treat the whole analogy, that is, the environment, the wind, the sand, the surface, the water, and the terrain, as one phenomenal superimposition on the ground of the Absolute. Then they don't bother about it. They say, we are not that. Are we not living in it? Yes, when you are ignorant, you are living in it. If you are not ignorant, then you take for granted that these are the things that are happening in the world of Maya. But you are not that. The Buddhist position is, there is no we. We are not. The Vedantins' position is, we are not that. But what about those of you who are sitting here, who are neither Buddhists or Vedantins? Are you affected? Yes, you are. According to Nagarjuna, you are affected by the concepts of things. According to Spinoza, you are affected by the states of your mind, such as pain, pleasure, and desire. Can you imagine a way of life in which you can free yourself from both the states of mind and the affectivity that comes from word concepts and symbol images. Buddha recommends vigilance, observation, contemplation, and the constant, continuous rejection of falsehood when you detect it, thereby disowning what you are not. Whether you are or are not, my advice is to let it be. I just received a letter from a young man in India, 2 pages full of his miseries. He said that he lost his job and he has to look after his father and mother, 3 sisters and 2 brothers. There is no way for him to get food for all of them. This is Anrita Parampara, not just one Anrita, but a whole hierarchy of them are operating on him. He wanted me to give him some advice by which he can get over this problem. His parents did not consult him when they were making 3 daughters and 2 other sons, did they? So how does he become duty-bound to find provisions for all these people? He thinks he should. What he should really know is that the other people came from the same womb as he did, and it is for them to take care of their lives, just as he takes care of his life. As it stands now, he takes care of his own life and has taken over from his father and mother the entire responsibility of looking after the other children as well. This is just one Anritam. Where does it come from? His society says he is the older son and it is his duty. I could write a letter to him saying, "You have no such duty. This is a self-imposed nonsense. The whole responsibility you have taken on does not really exist." Then the whole society will say, "I am no longer a guru to give such terrible advice and make people irresponsible." If you suffer and are miserable, the society is very happy. Look, he is the right kind of brother and a proper son, because he is suffering for their sake. We are all suffering, so let him also suffer, they think, and then they are happy because he is sharing their misery. No one, it seems, wants to share happiness, but there are plenty of people willing to sit down with you and cry. This may sound very callous, as though there is no compassion in what I say, but in the name of compassion we so often suffer needlessly. If Maya had only evils in her stock, we would long ago have overcome them. But Maya takes some higher values, such as love, compassion, justice, goodness, or morality, and interlaces it with all kinds of false notions and false identities. When they are so well woven together, it makes such an enchanting garment that you can't throw it away. But it is the kind of garment that Medea gave her rival, which burns when it is put on. It looks so beautiful, but when you wear it, it eats into your system. Maya makes this kind of robe for each one of us. You are compelled to put it on. Society approves of it. Everyone says, "It's wonderful, put it on." But once you put it on, you cannot get out of it. It clings. So you suffer for your own dear father and dear mother, dear brothers and sisters, your dear neighbor. You think, "Yeah, I'm doing great sacrifice." No, you are not doing any sacrifice. You are just foolish. Does this sound okay to you? If you produce your own child and that child is helpless, then of course you are responsible to feed it and care for it and raise it to the point where it can care for itself. That's what animals and birds do. But humans invented words, which birds and animals don't have. Huge tomes full of words have been written to confuse people. Once you read these books, you look at your own life and start suffering. because it doesn't match the ideals set down in them. Then you read another book and get more confused. A crow doesn't go to the library and study up on how to get through life. Wherever it sees something tasty, it goes there and pecks at it. Then it makes a big noise for other crows also to come and eat. It doesn't leave anything for others, especially, but if there is enough, they are welcome to share. We don't have even the simple common sense that the wild creatures do. The Upanishadic rishis see this barrier of words as a beautiful mask. In the Isavashi Upanishad it says, "O Pushan, great nourisher, remove this golden disc so I may see truth. I am a Satya Dharma, one who has taken upon himself the dharma of living truthfully. It is a golden disc, and it is so beautiful that you become attached to it and no longer seek the truth lying just behind it. This is the most skillful way to hide truth." So where is the place for compassion in this? There is a difference between love and attachment. Love is called premam, and attachment is called raga. Premam is the recognition of your oneness with the Absolute, along with your oneness with everything else within the Absolute. The recognition of that homogeneity brings an inner harmony. You feel at one with all. It gives you freedom. It is not a limiting love. It is freeing. In it, all is for all. Raga, on the other hand, is a binding love. The idea of the all disappears, and the love gets confined to a single entity, whether a person's family, group, or tribe. This produces a burning passion. Without this person, I cannot live, or this is my country. This type of fixation that is often called love can be seen all around us. What is in the other person that is lovable? And what is in you that loves? If you see the ground of it, it is the one Absolute. But that ground is now covered by sediments from the continuous dropping of dirt or andrita. You have to dive very deep and break through the built-up deposits to arrive at your original state. The surface of the pond is your consciousness. Just into the water is the subconscious state, and the dark terrain you cannot see from the surface is where your incipient memories are lying. Beneath those incipient memories is your real ground. If you can reach that real ground, you can see the higher values such as love, justice, compassion, and truth in their most pristine and pure form. Like the word fire, that represents fire, but is not it, and the word sugar, which has nothing to do with sugar, the so-called love, so-called compassion, and all the other conceptual things we live in, social life, are only false images. In themselves they have no value. But as they are false images, you can use them to exploit each other. They become an accumulation of trash in which you live blindly. Some of the words used in this verse are very special. One is Andrata Parampara. It's not just one falsehood. By the time you discover a certain thing is false, another comes along with its own set of alluring dynamics. I know several boys who have come to me with a girl and said, "She is precious. This is the real girl, the incarnation of love. All virtues are hers." Then the same fellow comes back looking dejected. "She is gone." But then he appears with another one. "Now, finally, I've got the real one." The other one was all wrong, but this one is right. And then she is gone, and again some terrible nights. Then he finds another one. This is called Anrita Parampara. There is not just one falsehood. They are all lined up waiting their turn. When one is gone, the next comes, and so on. Where is the end to it? You always think the last was wrong, but the next is right. When you are deceived, you make up your mind not to be deceived again. But you do not know how you are caught. Maya knows her business. It is not the first time she has done it. She has been doing it forever. This verse gives us a very comprehensive picture of the affectivity and effectivity of Maya. Maya is not total untruth. It is called Sadasat Vilakshana, real and unreal put together. With the real aspect it catches you. With the unreal aspect it betrays you. My mother, very real. Then that my mother wants you to live exactly as she wants and not as you do. Once you accept that she is your mother and you are willing to love her, she makes demand after demand. Whether it is mother or father or anyone, it doesn't matter who it is, the situation is the same. Spinoza says that nothing can destroy itself, only something else can destroy it. Other things are always ready to offer destruction. One thing is destroyed by another, but it is always mutual. Each wants to destroy. Ultimately, everything is destroyed. You can meditate on your own self as a wayside pond. You should be a very sacred reservoir of wisdom. But instead, the way of the world is such that you are like a neglected pond, and every gust of wind from the public media, school, university, church, or home is blowing into you and filling you up with garbage. See all the rubbish that has accumulated so far. But it's not quite all rubbish. Here and there you will also find some precious stones amid the trash. A heap of rubbish, then a pearl. Another heap of rubbish, but then a diamond. There are some people who are successful in burning away all the trash and gathering together their pearls and diamonds to make an inside which is rich and beautiful. You can work that way on yourself. And the free translation of verse 76 is as follows. As sand in a wasteland is ceaselessly blown by gusts of wind, which disturbs the surface of a pond and makes it increasingly shallow. The sands of untruth are continuously disfiguring consciousness, and the inner self is cluttered with multifarious forms.